Well, I'm going to talk about today about a scandal Humbert, a scandal that was, as we will see in a few minutes, if this works. Well, it was a major political scandal in the Third French Republic, la plus grande escroquerie du siècle, par exemple. For example, we saw the future radical president entitled this affair as les plus grands scandales du siècle. These two sentences provide us of the magnitude of the scandal in the first 2-3 years of the 20th century. As you can see here, this book is about a collection of affairs during the Third Republic, and we can see how the Affaire Humbert is explained and addressed. Something that is curious because in current historiography, a scandal is marginalized. For example, this work of Jan Garrix, that another edition is here in this table, and for example, the work of Lefebvre-Fillot, Les Scandales de la Troisième République, is also absent. So, how a huge scandal can be marginalized in historiography, and which impact it had in the first half of the century? These two questions now are going to be a little bit entangled, and we are going to talk about it, and we are going to put and add another paradigm about the birth of the national integralism, about the Action Française, the Ligue, la Ligue nationaliste, une counter-revolutionary group led by Charles Maurras, and whose influence over the French nationalistic thinking is enormous. So we have that a scholar of literature has explored other political scandals, but not the Affaire Humbert. And for example, one reason is that it was caught in the middle of the storm of the Dreyfus affair. So, for example, when we are addressing the Dreyfus affair, we cannot be detailed with the scandal. So this is a case that is marginalized. And I think that's a personal belief that due to the impact of another new and modern scandal, the Marthe Hanau's scandal, whose main actor was also a woman, has marginalized also the Thérèse Humbert history. It's quite tricky, this.
You have the pointer. It's open, it's on. It's on off on the. Okay.
As I was saying, another striking accent in scholarly literature is this: how to frame this scandal of corruption in the formation of the Action Française. The Action Française was organized as a nationalistic organization in the same years that the scandal was developed. But in neither of these classical scholar literature is mentioned. So I will try to bring together these two ideas: the impact of the Thérèse Humbert scandal and the birth of the national integralism. Just to give you some ideas of how the scandal was developed. In the late 19th century, Teresa Orignac received a mysterious letter saying that she was the heir of the Uncle Crawford, a big landlord residing in America. Therefore, Thérèse d'Orignac became Thérèse d'Orignac, just to show that she was entering in the financial milieu. Then she was married with Affaire Humbert, that was the son of the mayor of Toulouse, and the future Minister of Justice, Gustave Humbert. Thanks to this connection, thanks to this political connection, they started to borrow 50 million francs on the strength of an empty safe. So this is the famous coffre-fort. So they started to use the Ponzi scheme. They started to borrow money because they said that they could guarantee the payments because they were rich. And okay, if I try to do that, I will be screwed. But but Thérèse Humbert, La Grande Thérèse, was in a very important political family, the Republican family, the family called known as the opportunists. So they were the major traditional republicanism in the end of the 19th century. So she was in this case safe. Nobody challenged her opinion. But in the end, they were, imagine them living la vie during 20 years without spending a lot of money, borrowing a lot of money, but finally someone denounced it. Like, okay, that's enough. I know that you are really well connected with political families, but I need to know if there's something inside the coffee. And we finally have this caricature of the prefect Lepine opening the coffre-fort and not finding anything, just a rabbit. So well, the family fled to Madrid, and then in the end in December of the 1902, they were captured. And the trial in the next year lasted 6 weeks. It was a major scandal. Yesterday we talked about how people pay a ticket to an entrance to have the fun of a trial, and this happens also. It was like a novel. There were a lot of journalists, a lot of writers who were amazed of the history, a history that could be written by Eugène Sue or Balzac. So that it was really catchy. Finally, the sentence was for 5 years for Thérèse and Frédéric, and 3 years for Romain and Émile, another 2 fake Crawford descendants. So if you imagine that they were acting and robbing for 20 years, the sentence is really low. And you can ask why. If you don't ask this, I will put you. I will put the question on the table. Why was the sentence so low? One of the explanations is that La Grande Thérèse targeted big fortunes. So, for example, the Bank of France loaned an undisclosed sum of the Credit Industriel of Paris. And, for example, the Empress Eugène and Paul Louvet, the son of the President of the French Republic, were caught in the middle of this storm. So, Thérèse Humbert knew really where the money was. He was not bribing or trying to fake or trick peasants or middle classes, but big fortunes. And he uses political connections during, as I said, more than 20 years. So this trial reflected something that is really important, I guess, and it's not only a French particularity. It's also, for example, I have studied a case of a study that a murder, a Catalan murder, killed little cacique in Barcelona, and the popular opinion absolved him because he was a hero. So why the sentence was so low was because the people, common people, believe that, well, okay, the Humbert family were bribers, were fakers, but it's okay. Maybe it's okay to have scandalized the Republicans. And for example, the conclusions of Benjamin F. Martin's, their justice, the jury's one, was not justice indeed, but it was less hypocritical than the justice proposed by the state. So I think that this idea is really important to understand how people can interact and how the common people, how the folk, can realize the impact or the measure of a scandal. But now we are going to delve into the extreme right. The first campaign was led by La Libre Parole, un journal anti-Semitic press, and the first campaign was led by Hervé Breton in an early date. So the extreme right had the focus on the Ponzi scheme really early, but they were a little bit, well, they were anti-Semitic in it, so the theories, how they did the campaign, was a little bit floppy and sleepy. They put Jews over there, and they talk about the Helios octopus, for example, so there was they had reason, but how they addressed the problem was a little bit imaginative. So nobody takes it seriously because it was reading, for example, the campaign. It's difficult to believe that German bankers or people with Israeli names can be really the founders of or the patronage of Affaire Humbert. But finally, La Libre Parole, after the trial, gave an interpretation of the event that is quite serious, because there, during the trial, people who were condemned or cited or quoted were Republicans linked to the Légion d'honneur, and people who had a real status in the French Third Republic. So in the first campaign was a little bit imaginative. After the trial, they tackled the problem and they addressed properly the problem. And the conclusion was the Affaire Humbert affair is an affair that puts the Third Republic on the target as a whole. They are not bad apples. The bad apple is the regime. And another question, where's the Action Française in all this public theater? So we need to, I think, revisiting the formation of integral nationalism through the lens of this scandal. For one reason, because when we address the memory of the Affaire Humbert scandal, it's really present in all of the writings and press of the Action Française since the 40s of the 20th century. So it's a ghost that is visiting the Action Française recurrently. So for me, it's really important to link the emergence of the national interialism with this scandal. And therefore, it's essential to come back to primary sources, something that they are not exactly done in the last books talking about or exploring the nationalistic league. For example, here, l'Action Française, le bulletin bimensuel, is not in open access. So you have to go to the National Library and read it in microfilm. So it's something that is quite tricky. And for example, we have to address primary sources published but not, again, in full access or open access. So we need to go back to the roots and to have, I think, not a history of the origins of the Action Française, but to rethink a bit the impact of the and the popular emotions or the popular feeling and emergence of this league. And now we are going to go to straight of the question, the core of the talk, and 5 minutes.
And core and the conclusions.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
10 minutes, thank you, Ricard. So now we are going to address the problem and how the Action Française received this scandal all along its history. For them, the Affaire Humbert was another step in the shameful history of the Third Republic. There's a fragment here on Panama, Wilson, Thérèse Humbert, after the Affaire Rocher. So it's a shame of a scandal. But Thérèse Humbert has a privileged place in this shame. And Tom before me was talking about cosmopolitanism and radical imaginary. And here there are a lot of connections. For example, Charles Maurras talked about the 4 confederate states against a nation, a force of Jews, Protestants, Freemasons, and foreigners that were working to destroy the French nation. And they were a powerful international and cosmopolitan force. And the Affaire Humbert, therefore, is an open window to discover, to unveil the moral miseries of the Third Republic for Maurras and company. And we can link to the emergence of the society of masses because they attack also the press. Why did not the press fiscalize or denounce the scandal? Why had to be an individual to uncover the miseries of the Third Republic? And here Leon Daudet, with his not educated writing, attacked directly to Jean Dupuy. Jean Dupuy was one back then of the greatest press patrons in the Third Republic, and he was addressing, why did you receive the francs of Thérèse Humbert previously? And how did you receive that money, and now you are in the job? So I think that Leon Daudet expressed the failure of the public opinion as an auditing body. So I think that this idea is really important. And then one of the main targets was the magistracy. Baudouin and Laborie, the attorney of Dreyfus, were spotted, because Laborie was also the attorney of Thérèse Humbert, and judges were representative of the anti-France. They were people who were put there by cosmopolitans and Germans and Jews. They were operating against the nation. So for them there was the impossibility to have a fair justice. And the impossibility to have a fair justice is impossible and the result of having a good accountability. Because the regime was rotten to the core. And this is the main idea. It's not that previous denouncers like La Ligue des Patriotes or Boulangisme in general, or Maurice Barrès, addressed the problem partially. We have to extern this part of the regime in order to regenerate the social or national body. But the Action Française attack directly to the modernity. They attack capitalism, so the stock market, la bourse, and they attack also the main powers, the executive and the justice. So I think that's a novelty here. And we can put a question, I think that's really interesting. Were they against the femininity? Because Thérèse Humbert was a woman. So, in part, they were admired. Because Thérèse Humbert, his cleverness, exposed the shame of the regime. She was impaired of the great minds of the decade. But on the other hand, they had to refute her because she had a lot of affinities in the political milieu. So Thérèse Humbert in the nationalistic imaginary had positive and negative themes. But Thérèse Humbert at least was, and it was a consensus, it was the image of a new woman that will be surpassed in the 20s and 30s by Martha Arnault. For the reason, the imagery that we have today of a woman that can put the regime down to her knees and to put and to expose all the shame of the regime is linked to Martha Arnault and not to Thérèse Humbert, because at least Thérèse Humbert, the amount of francs that she received was less than the one Arnault received thanks to the La Gazette du Franc. So, some concluding remarks. The memory of La Reine Thérèse is the epitome of the political corruption for the Action Française. That I think that's the main idea, and a clear idea if someone is addressing the problem. And the relation between Republican politics and the speculative war is the genesis, is the grassroots of conspiracy theories, and in the end, the idea of an existing deep state. Without these dark connections behind the scenes, it's impossible to build any paranoid mentality. And the last point of my intervention is that modernity was a big fraud. The modernity incarnates the anti-France. So modernity per se is always bad. You cannot save modernity because liberalism and capitalism can lead to social revolution, democracy, that means the opinion of the fools, and a huge polarization of social wellness. So, thank you for your attention.